Hey, this is Kyle at Projection Hub, and today I'm going to show you how to create a business plan for a brewery that gets approved for a loan at the bank. Now, your goal may not be just to get financing, maybe it's just internal planning, or maybe it is a business loan application, or maybe you're trying to pitch an investor, and so you need to create a business plan for them. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you a structure of business plan using this free brewery business plan template that we've created. It's available down in the link below, totally free, no strings attached, I promise. And while I'm going through this, my main goal today is I'm going to highlight 5 key points that will increase the likelihood of you actually getting approved for financing if that's your goal, or really just to make your business plan shine. So if you stick with me, I'm going to go through the whole structure I'm not going to fill out the whole thing for you. It's pre-filled out with a fictitious example, which is helpful for you to give you some context as you're filling it out, can help you, have an idea of what to put in there. But as I'm going through it and I come across those 5 key points, I will stop. I will explain a little bit more about them and even show an example of what to include in your business plan when you're doing that. So who is Projection Hub? Projection Hub has helped more than 50,000 small businesses and entrepreneurs create financial projections for their business plans, their loan applications, their pitch decks. And actually one of our most common clients over the years has been breweries and microbreweries. And so we've seen a lot of these. And actually in my time before Projection Hub, I worked for an SBA or Small Business Administration lender. And I had the chance to work with business owners to review their business plans and their projections and help them put together loan applications as they were applying for that process, and worked with many different breweries and actually helped several of them get funded. And so I have some experience looking through brewery business plans and have an idea of some things to look out for. So if at any point you like this video, give it a thumbs up. That really helps us here at Projection Hub as a fellow small business. And feel free to subscribe to the channel. Not all of our content is related to owning a brewery or running a brewery, but just running a business in general, raising funding, managing your finances, growing your business. We have a lot of content around that. So without further ado, I will go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so why is your business plan important, or why do you need to have one? Probably seems obvious. It's probably because somebody asked you for it. But more so than that, something to keep in mind for your business is, 5 years ago, maybe more, a brewery was like maybe a more novel concept. And so the business plan needed to do some educating about, details within the industry. Now I would say it's common enough that your lender has probably seen several brewery deals before. And so you don't need to worry about doing as much educating. What you need to focus on in your business plan is demonstrating your specific plan. I know that's ironic because it's a business plan, but your specific path to success. Whatever you define success as in your business plan, your business plan isn't just a generic, this is who we are, and this is what we're going to do. It needs to be more specific than that. And that's, I know I'm going to show you 5 key points, but if there's one defining key point, it would be to take your business plan from, okay to really good. It would be that it includes specific detail, that it's very clear how you're going to succeed. If things go the way you say they are, and you do the things you say you're going to in your business plan, you will succeed. That creates a high degree of confidence in people who might back you, with funding, whether it's financing or investment. So, okay, I'll get off my soapbox there. And we're going to scroll through here and see initially in the table of contents, you can see what's kind of included, the different sections. And one thing you'll notice is that we're looking at 17 pages here. Now, a myth about business plans is that they need to be super long. Okay. At my time as a lender, sometimes someone would hand me a 50-page business plan or even longer. And I'm just telling you, there's no way that whole thing's going to be read. There's other deals to go through. People have to do other things. And so the only thing that ends up doing is hurting you, because that person's skimming your business plan, which means they're probably missing some important details. So my encouragement to you is, if you need to write a 50-page business plan, a 100-page business plan to have all of your ideas down on paper and to really feel prepared, then do that as an exercise for you. But what you actually deliver to your lender or an investor should be a refined version of that. 15 pages, maybe 20 pages, that is just jam-packed with all of the important details, rather than, things falling through the cracks because it's just too much information. So this template, and this is a little misleading, don't hold on to this too tightly, because this is a template, right? So it's got some subheadings in there. It's got a description of what that subheading should be. It's got a 1 to 2 sentence, example for every one of these sections. So your business plan is going to be a little different because you're writing your own information, and you should elaborate in any one of these sections as you feel, is necessary, or even add in sections as you feel is necessary. So first section, you got your executive summary. I want you to think about this like the cover letter of a resume for a job application. So this is kind of the 1-page introduction to who you are. We want to cover who you are, what you're doing, where you're doing it at, how are you doing it differently than anybody else, your goals, short-term, long-term in here. It's even better if you can attach financial goals to that. your keys to success, your mission statement. So your executive summary, as well as your company description, I don't want to say it's not going to make or break your business plan success. It can break it. If you don't include details here, or you don't do it, it's going to hurt you. If you do it, it's not going to automatically get you an approval, but it's important to include. Okay, so company description is kind of just an extension of that. You got like your legal entity structure, your company history. So key point, I think 3, later on in the video, I'll stop and talk about it a little bit more, but this could be a place where you would include key point number 3, and that's just talking about any relevant industry experience you have, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Okay, so moving on to market analysis, and this is going to bring us to key point number 1, which you've got highlighted down here. And essentially what we're doing in this section is we need to demonstrate that there is room in the market for your brewery. So a mistake that can often be made in a business plan is someone says, their description of the market is, you see the classic like Shark Tank example where someone comes in and they're like, my industry is $12 trillion. It's like, that doesn't make sense. That's out of the scope. So we need to focus on your local scope, be realistic about it. And what we need to do, and I guess the second mistake people make, is they don't show any tangible examples of research that they have done to support the fact that they think there's a market available. So you can do your little industry overview for the local market. You can talk about your competitor analysis, who's your target customer, maybe some market opportunities. Like, these are important things to include, but what's even more important is showing the actual research that you're doing. So you may ask, how do you do that? 2 initial ways that we'll talk about. 1, you could have a market research study done of some degree. You could pay for that professionally to be done. You definitely don't have to do that. If you are interested in doing that, retail businesses are actually really good ones to do that for, because you can measure things like foot traffic and stuff like that of other competitors. We actually do offer market research report data, so we offer that specifically for brewery businesses. So if you're interested, you can click on that, learn more about it, but you certainly don't have to. Other way you can do that is do some free research, which I'm going to show you how you can do that. And one way you can do that is go to what's called the Google, or go to Google AdWords. You can create a free Google AdWords account. It's an account you need in order to like do advertisement on Google. You don't have to run any ads. It's totally free to do this. Once you create an account, you can get into a tool called the Keyword Planning Tool. What this will allow you to do is basically run some simulations on how often are particular search phrases being searched. And then, what are their trends? What are related keyword search terms? And you can also decide, like what location. So for example, our fictitious brewery is located in Asheville, North Carolina. And so I set that as my location. So that it was like 300, 400,000 people are in that area. And then I wanted to know, how often is someone searching brewery near me while they're located there? Okay, so we've got some data here. So you can see a pretty significant amount of search volume. Some things that stick out to me. 1, there's seasonality. See how that goes down and dips up? You can see that almost for all of these search terms. So that's probably where is that at? In January. So in the colder months, people just aren't going out as much. Maybe tourism dips down. So that's one thing to notice. Another thing, you can see all these other search terms. What's most important to me is the trend data here. So 3-month change, but also more importantly, year-over-year change. This to me is an indicator of demand. So is the amount of people searching that term in my target location going up or going down? So brewery near me is up 23%. Now there's a little bit of mixed messages here. Beer near me, that's not specific. Breweries with food near me, that's like a brew pub, up 23%. But brew pub down 35%. So maybe it's just a little bit different in the semantics or the way people are saying that. Microbrewery near me, up 29%. Craft beer near me, up 67%. So to me, it feels like an indication that there's a growing demand for breweries in the area. Now, this isn't a demonstration of market saturation, right? There could be enough breweries in the area, or at least ones that you're gonna have. This isn't an indication that the market's wide open and you open a brewery and you're automatically gonna capture that 23% as customers. But what it is an indication is that it's growing. So in theory, there should be room for more breweries. So doing this type of homework, like this just took 3 minutes while I was here talking to you on this video, doing this type of homework and including some screenshots of that, doing some other research that you can to just support the fact that, yes, I do think that there's an opportunity. Some other examples of this might be highlight your research. Just go to Google Maps and find out every brewery that exists within 10 miles of where you're going to be located. Look at their Google reviews, look at their price points. Are people enjoying their experience? Are people complaining? just do that type of homework and include summaries of that in your business plan, so it's really clear that you actually know what you're talking about and that you do think there's a market. And if it appears to you that the market's tight or it's saturated, you need to shift gears to talk a little bit more about, well, what are you going to do to disrupt it? What are you bringing to the table that's different or unique that's going to steal some of that market share? So going back to the business plan, that's kind of a summary of the market analysis. Do more than just talking about the market. You need to demonstrate some evidence and some research that you have done research in the market. And again, we'd be happy to do some market research for you, including foot traffic and analyzing, competitors and keyword search volume and all kinds of different things. You can learn more about that there. Okay, moving on to marketing and sales strategy. So again, you can see here the things included in this. What are you going to sell? Maybe your price range of where you're going to sell things. How are you going to sell things? Do you have distribution? Are you going to distribute? Are you going to keg your beer and sell it other places? Are you going to can it? Are you going to bottle it? You're going to have a website. You're going to do social media. So all of these things included here are very important. Include them because it will hurt you if you don't include them. But key point number 2 is demonstrating customer acquisition. So similar to what we just did on key point number 1, there's a difference between highlighting these things and then actually demonstrating how you're going to get customers in the door. Okay, so we've identified that there is room in the market or that the market exists, and now we need to demonstrate how are we going to give our lenders confidence that we actually are going to get customers to show up when it comes time to open the doors. And so one thing I think would go well here that I want to talk a little bit more is a thing called traction. This is a common phrase in like the tech space, and they talk about it when someone is launching a new app or website or software service or whatever. A lot of times they generate signups for like beta testers or people just starting to use their product, and they refer to that as traction. It's kind of like a measurement of momentum. Like, are people actually liking and using the thing, so that when it comes to raise investment or something like that, there's confidence that there's room for it to grow. It's starting out strong, there's room for it to grow. A little bit trickier to do for a brewery because, again, a brew pub, you got to invest in the space and all the restaurant and the menu and get everything set up. So it's hard to do all of that before you have the space. But there's some different ways to go about doing this. Let's say like maybe you start brewing beer before you have the location of the actual brew pub or whatever you're going to offer. You can go to events and festivals and offer beer tastings and sell some discounted beer or whatever and get your name out, right? Give out stickers, you could sell merch. You could get people to sign up for like a founders club. So after launch for the first year, they get discounted drinks. This might be more of a post-launch thing, but you could collaborate with local restaurants and bars to share things on each other's menus, feature your beer in a plate that they're making at their restaurant. Don't underestimate social media. So it's one thing to say we're going to have social media, but that's not good enough. If you can actually do it, build a following, build email signups, document the process of opening your brewery, brewing your beer, changing the menu, engage the audience, build a following there. Now, I know a social media following doesn't necessarily represent those might be your customers because they may not be local, but building that following certainly doesn't hurt, and it can also reach that local audience that could be attractive. So when people travel to your location, maybe it's in a tourist area, they might seek you out, right? They come to your place. And that's a thing you can start to build before your restaurant's even open or your brew pub's even open. So traction, some of the things can be when it opens, but anything you can demonstrate you're doing before even an official launch is just gravy. If that's taste testings, if that's small batch runs and you're selling that, even if it's a small amount, the 2 best types of traction are any pre-revenue sales. So any sales you make before you officially launch, and like names on lists, interest lists, sign up lists. Those are great to have because that's an indication that you're hustling and that you're setting yourself up for success. So those are ways to really make your business plan shine and give your lender some confidence. So moving on, operations and management. This is shifting a little bit more to some of the logistics of how you're going to produce the beer, how's your tap room going to be managed, compliance, that kind of stuff. So I won't go too far into that's beyond my expertise. But I did allude to key point number 3, which is relevant industry experience. You can talk about that here. You can also talk about that back up in the company description. But what's important here is you want to give your lender confidence that you know what you're getting yourself into and you know what you're doing. And this, I feel like, is a good industry that you need to be careful because, so when I was a lender, we would often have people come to us that wanted to start a business and they had worked a whole career in one industry And then they wanted to start a business in a completely different industry that had no correlation. And this is one of those industries. You might have someone who was corporate executive or, worked in marketing or whatever, but they brewed beer on the side with their buddies, and then they wanted to start a brew pub. So not to say you can't do that. You just need to be strategic about how you talk about your experience. So if you don't have obvious correlated experience, talk about the things you do have experience in. So let's use the marketing example. Maybe you have advertising experience. You're great at sales. You can do all your graphic design stuff. Like, those are strengths. But you still want to highlight whether it's you, a partner, a co-founder, a key employee, someone in a management team. Collectively, you need to demonstrate the fact that you have the experience to know what you're doing and getting yourself into it. Because it's not to say it's an automatic decline of a loan request if you don't have those things, but it does make it certainly easier. It's another hurdle to overcome if you don't have relevant experience to kind of give that confidence to your lender. So that's the thing to keep in mind. Moving on, and this is kind of the big one, in financial projections. Obviously, we're a little biased. We think financial projections are the most important. We are a projection hub. But even in my time as a lender before Projection Hub, this is by far the most important section of business plans, especially for startup businesses. So we're going to spend just a little bit of time talking about this. Okay, so getting into this here, first we've got our startup cost breakdown. So this is where we're going to talk about how much money is going to be needed to actually get the brewery open and running. Where is that startup funding going to come from? Is it from a loan? Is it from personal investment? Is it from an investor? You can outline that here. Your forecasted revenue projections. So you can here see a little quick snapshot of 5 years of projected revenue. Even though this is 2022, it's meant to be forward thinking. It's just an old screenshot. Cost of goods sold, gross profit, operating expenses, net income. Here's some brew pub specific details: total tables served, takeout orders, tap room sales, average order size, house beer, cost of goods sold percentage, some key ratios. Then expenses, these are monthly operating expenses, non-labor. That doesn't include labor. Here's a pro forma income statement, or like a profit and loss. Cash flow statement. You can include a balance sheet. Here's our break-even analysis, when that's going to happen. So I know this section is typically where business owners start to roll their eyes, and we lose them a little bit. Just stick with me. All of those charts and those graphs were made using this super simple template. And again, you're probably rolling your eyes because you're like, oh great, here comes a template. Financial projections can be difficult if you don't know what you're doing. And either you end up paying an accountant quite a bit of money, probably $1,000, a couple $1,000, to create projections for you from scratch, or you can use a template to help you fill it out, because you're probably not going to build projections from scratch. And this is one of the things you want to make sure they're done well. So this template was built by CPA on our staff, and it's made in a way so that you can fill it out yourself. It's just 5 tabs here where you're going to input information, and you're only inputting information in these blue boxes. Okay. What do you need for startup costs? Do you have an investor? Are you going to get a loan? It's going to tell you how much startup cash do you actually need. Now, what's really important about this template is most projection templates just ask you what your estimated monthly revenue is going to be, and it uses that for the projections. This is actually going to help walk you through the brewery specific assumptions that are going to calculate your estimated revenue. So again, it might feel like a little overwhelming just seeing this, but I promise you, you know these numbers because you have the experience in the industry, and you're going to know your numbers even better after you kind of know what actually went into creating the projections. So you'll put in things like your ingredients for your beer, how much is going to cost to run those batches. Are you going to put those in barrels, bottles, kegs, the size of those? You have your tap room details here. How many seats do you have in here? Your menu of beers you're going to sell. How long do people visit? So again, we're only editing things in the blue squares. You can have other menu items. So if you're going to sell food, that can be included in here too. And then it's going to calculate all of this stuff for you. Even if you do wholesale distribution, that's going to be down here. You'll put in your direct labor. So this will be like hourly employees. You got servers, chefs, hosts. That'll be more restaurant management. Here's your monthly operating expenses that are those recurring expenses you're going to have. And then if you have any salaried employees, they're going to go in here. And then it's going to generate all of these charts and pro forma statements that your lender is going to want to see for you, both in annual summaries and in monthly breakdowns for 5 years. And it's going to do it really easily. So that's just a quick plug on that. I've linked it down in the description below. At the end of the video, I'll give you a promo code to get a 20% discount on that template too. It's less than $100. I promise you it'll be worth it. We're here to answer questions as you fill it out. We have a video walkthrough guide of how to fill it out. It's a really great bang for your buck to use that. And it's one of our most popular templates. So that being said, back to the business plan. Financial projections aren't key point number 4 because they have to be in your business plan. Those aren't like a bonus tip. It has to have projections in there. So key point number 4 is they need to be realistic. And again, maybe you're like, well, how am I supposed to know if they're going to be realistic? Get a template or create your projections however you want to, and then just start doing some Google searches based on those key data. So like, let's use our projections as an example here. I'm gonna take these key ratios. Those are important. They're key for a reason. And I'm curious, what's a typical brewery profit margin? Go to Google, search that. Breweries is typically around 20%. 25% would be high is what it's saying. Also, depending upon your comfort level with AI tools, you could use Bard or ChatGPT, ask it the same thing. It'll give you some more information. 5% to 30%, that's a big range. Let's go back and see ours. We expect a loss in the first year, but you can see we start to grow into that 11%, 15%, 20%. So that's good. That's realistic and within range. You can do that exercise with any data point in your projections. What is what's average revenue for X amount of tabletops in your brew pub? Anything you can do, you just do those searches and just compare that to what your projections are and tweak them as you need to really dial in what's realistic. Also, if you create projections with using our template and you fill it out, you can send it to us and we'll do a free review of your projections to let you know feedback or any things to look out for and can answer questions that way. So that's key point number 4. And that'll take us down to the end of our business plan. But there's one more key point, and that is skin in the game. So this is actually not a terribly difficult one, I would say, in the brewery industry. This is kind of an example of like, if you go to buy a house, you're going to put a down payment on that house, and the bank's going to have a lien on your house. So if you default on that mortgage, you're going to lose your down payment and you're going to lose your house. I don't say that to be scary, but people sometimes don't have that same expectation when they get a business loan. And so you should have that same expectation when you get a business loan. You're going to have to invest some of the startup costs on your own. The bank's not going to fund 100% of that. They're going to want to secure their loan with as much collateral that exists. So if you have your brewing equipment, your kegs, if you buy the building, they're going to want to have the building. That's great. That'll probably secure the loan. If you're renting the space, though, you're probably going to have a collateral shortfall. So you might need to be prepared to have some personal collateral committed to the loan. So all this just to say that, like, don't be surprised when, they're wanting you to put more skin in the game. They want to see more commitment to the potential risk of the loan because they're not going to be the only ones that are going to stick their neck out for those funds. So just be mindful of that. You can include that proactively in your business plan if you want. You don't have to do that, but just be prepared to answer that question. And that's it. That's the whole business plan. Again, the link to this business plan for free down in the description below. I also put the link to the projection template down there as promised. Let me scroll back up. If you use PH20BP, you can get 20% off a discount on the template. Reach out to us at support@projectionhub.com. If you have any questions at all, we'd be happy to help you. And like the video if you appreciated this, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.